The chapter begins where the girl asks God to give her a second chance at life. The next day she woke up and was very surprised because everything had turned back. Realizing this, the girl began to panic. Next, we are shown the story about Bianca de Arno, well known both in her land and in the country. Her husband is Count Zachary de Arno. He was a faithful servant of the King of Severin and an assistant to the heir Prince Gaudier. Every time the Count risked his life and went to battle, Lady Bianca always wore a new dress and purchased famous products from the kingdom's craftsmen and jewelers. Once she locked herself in her room. The girl started screaming like crazy and smashed all the expensive furniture. For days passed and two maids were walking down the corridor. One of the girls suggested going into Bianca's room to see her condition, but the other maid refused to do so because the lands of Arno were suffering because of Bianca. Arno is the land where rulers often changed, so the people of this land suffered a lot. But that all changed when Zachary came to power. After his arrival, everything started to stabilize. In the war, the Count earned a lot of money, and it seemed like he could do something to ensure that everyone on this land lived in abundance. However, the only one who spent the Count's earned money was his luxurious wife. Meanwhile, in her room, Bianca was sewing lace. She learned how to do it when she was in the monastery. The girl opened the door and headed to Vincent, the Arno family's butler. Upon entering the butler's room, Bianca asked him how old she would be this year. Vincent replied that the lady will turn 18 years old this year. The girl asked him about the Count's whereabouts, and the servant replied that at the moment Zachary is at war and would not return until winter. Upon hearing this, she asked Vincent to bring her a fox fur, as it was very cold. The butler could not refuse, as he had sworn to the Count that he would fulfill all of Bianca's wishes. After some time, Vincent brought the fur to the girl and she praised it. The butler said that a new message had arrived this morning, stating that the Count is already returning. The girl went out onto the balcony and promised herself that she would live her life correctly and not repeat her mistake. After some time, the Count returned to Arno and saw through his binoculars that his wife is shouting something into the sky. He entered the castle grounds and everyone became joyful because the Iron Count, Zachary de Arno, had returned. The man got this nickname when he fought against the enemy. During the battle, the Count's silver hair was soaked in the enemy's blood, and the nickname came from the fact that Zachary looked like a well-crafted sword. For the enemy, his silver hair was the greatest fear. At the entrance to the palace, he was met by Vincent, who said that the table was being prepared in the banquet hall. The Count thanked everyone for their work and told them to eat and drink to their heart's content. Next, we are shown three commanders of the Arno army: Saboro, Casper, and Robert. Saboro began to boast about himself because on the battlefield, he saved Robert by cutting an arrow flying towards his partner with his sword. Suddenly, Bianca appeared from behind and asked about the whereabouts of the Count. Saboro replied that Zachary had gone up to his room to take a shower as quickly as possible. When the girl left, the boys were very surprised by what they saw because last time she was only up to their waist, but now she was almost their height. On that day, the lady wanted to talk to the Count about something important, so she went straight into his room without hesitation. She opened the door and saw a man in front of her who was taking off his shirt. Zachary asked if she wanted to tell him something, and the girl replied that she had heard about his return and came to see the Count because, after all, she is his wife. She ordered Vincent to leave them alone because she needed to talk to her husband in private. Vincent obeyed and left the room. The Count asked the girl what she wanted to talk about. Bianca said that it had been 9 years since they got married and she decided to fulfill the duty of a wife, namely to give birth to the next heir of Count Arno. Zachary asked her if she knew how to do it. The girl replied that she had heard enough from the maids and now she knew exactly what to do. The Count said that he would talk to her about it later, as he is a little tired now. Bianca became scared because if she doesn't have a child, she will have to live that difficult life again. She didn't let him leave the room and asked about the dowry of their marriage. The Count replied that their marriage cost 100 silver cups, 2 chests of jewels, and a part of the land. It is worth the budget of Arno for 2 years. Dowry is the money that a bride brings into the home of the groom when they get married. It's like an inheritance given to the bride by her parents to support her after marriage. But there are cases when the groom returns the bride and marries another. Then he must return the entire dowry along with her. Bianca realized that all those rumors were true and understood that the Count has a mistress. The girl told him not to worry because she doesn't require a divorce, so he can continue to see her. The Count replied that it's all nonsense and added that talking about a successor now is foolish, and ordered Vincent to escort the lady to her room. Bianca began to scream for the Count to listen to her, but Zachary didn't want to do it. When the Count was alone in the room, he remembered situations when he always went to Bianca after the battle, but she avoided him because he smelled of blood. But today, as if nothing had happened, she grabbed him and began talking about their heir. The Count was surprised because he had not yet bathed and still smells of blood. He wondered what had changed while he was gone. In the corridor, Bianca longed to have a child with the Count because in 7 years the Count is destined to die. Vincent offered to escort the lady to her room, but she said she could manage on her own. In her room, the girl thought about the Count's lover, because the Count remembered the entire dowry, and at any moment he could return her and the dowry to Blanchefort. Unexpectedly, the Count appeared from behind and covered the girl with the fur coat she had forgotten in his room. Walking, Zachary thanked the girl for today, but Bianca couldn't understand why he thanked her. The girl thought that the Count hinted at the expensive fur coat that she had purchased, but the words about the fox fur coat may have been said sarcastically. Bianca met the Count for the first time upon his return home, and that's why he thanked her. She understood that if they see each other and talk more often, maybe the Count's opinion about her desired successor could change. The next day at Arno Castle, an unprecedented commotion occurred. Everyone started talking about Bianca and her actions the day before. They were all surprised because it was the first time the girl had behaved like that. During floor cleaning, the maids began talking about Bianca and the Count. They became joyful because now Bianca has changed and can bear a child. But one maid didn't like this and said that Bianca is a gloomy woman. She also added that she can warm the Count's bed much better than some Bianca. The maid continued to speak ill of the girl, but suddenly the lady appeared. Upon hearing this, she struck the maid hard across the face. The girl ordered another maid to bring a cane and told her opponent that she was unlucky because she was in a bad mood today. Bianca took the cane and started hitting the maid's hands. Many people saw it and decided to call the butler. Bianca decided to strike again, but Robert stopped her. It turned out that she didn't know who he was, and Robert was surprised because he is a commander and everyone in Arno know him. He took the cane from the girl and told her not to behave like that anymore. But Bianca said that she did it because the maid was belittling her and trying to enter Bianca's husband's room. The Count heard strange noises and arrived in the hallway where a crowd had gathered. The chambermaid was happy because she knew that the Count is a good person and would help her. She remembered a situation when a man stole half a bag of wheat, but the Count didn't cut off his hand. Instead, he ordered to bring a whole bag of wheat next year. The Count approached Bianca and asked about the state of her hand. As it turned out, the girl had bloody scars on her hands, and the Count told Vincent to call a doctor to treat his wife's wound. But Bianca refused, saying that it would be better to call a doctor for the maid whom the Count so fiercely protects. In the end, the girl left, saying that she doesn't need any doctors. The Count decided to ask the maid what she had done wrong. But the maid said that she was simply cleaning in the hallway and did not say anything. As he left, the Count ordered the butler to get rid of the rumors. When the man left, the butler told the maid to gather her things and leave the castle because she talks too much. The butler approached Robert and asked, "What are you doing here?" Robert replied that he came here to stop Bianca, but after he heard that the maid insulted her, he decided that Bianca acted correctly in this situation. But he was still surprised that the Countess did not let it go and decided to personally punish the maid. The butler said that what Bianca did today is within her duties as a mistress. He added that the mistress has changed her attitude towards Arno. Meanwhile, in her room, Bianca complained about the pain in her hand, but consoled herself with the thought that the maid's hand hurts even more. She started to think that the Count calms the maid down and kisses her hands, saying that she will soon take Bianca's place. Suddenly, a girl came into the room and offered to make a healing compress for Bianca. saying that the pain in her hands will disappear in a while. The maid began making the compress, and Bianca recalled the words of her nanny. The nanny used to say that when an understanding person appears, the lady needs to be the first one to ask her to take her hand. The countess asked the girl about her name. The maid replied that her name is Yvonne. Bianca told Yvonne to come back to her tomorrow to make the compress again. Yvonne was happy because she finally has something she could do for the lady. Next, we are transported 10 years back to the capital of Severin, Laos. In the distance, a man called out to the count and asked if he is the son of Viscount Vig. The count replied that the title of Viscount and head of the family had been taken over by his older brother 3 years ago, and the count is the lord of the Arno estate. The man introduced himself as Postave de Blanchefort. The count realized that Blanchefort is the right-hand man of the heir Prince Gautier and apologized to him for being uneducated about Blanchefort before. Blanchefort replied that everything is fine and asked if the count could spare him a little time because he had wanted to talk to him for a long time. They went to the garden and decided to have tea. Blanchefort began to speak, saying that until today he had served the king of Severin faithfully and had no doubts that the heir Prince Gautier would become the ruler of Severin. Blanchefort offered the count to become the sword of the first heir prince. The count replied that he is a simple knight and does not yet have a great reputation to be alongside Gautier. Blanchefort laughed and said that Zachary de Arno is popular throughout Severin because he had been fighting alone on the fields since he was 16 and even received the title of baron. Blanchefort added that he had been tasked with choosing a person who would be the sword for Gautier for the rest of his life. As a result, he chose Zachary and said that the bright future of Severin depended on him. The count agreed and told Blanchefort that he wants to get married. Blanchefort was pleased because he had a daughter, and if Zachary married her, Blanchefort would support him using all his connections and wealth. It was difficult to refuse this proposal, and as a result, this marriage became a business deal, and the precious wife he married was Bianca. On the evening when the count expelled the maid Auntie, he hastily summoned 3 captains. As they walked, the men thought they needed to go back to the battlefield again. They entered the room and asked the count about it, but Zachary replied that there is something much more important than war. He said that one of them should accompany and protect his wife. The captains were very surprised because they didn't understand why his wife needed protection, as she spends all her time sitting in the room. The count replied that in the future he wants the person he trusts the most to be by his wife's side and watch over her, so that she doesn't get hurt, because Arno Bianca is a precious person. The next day, Yvonne came back into Bianca's room and started to apply a healing compress. Bianca woke up and thanked the maid because now she wouldn't be lazy in the mornings anymore. The countess changed her clothes and went out to the hallway with her maid. As they were walking, Bianca mentioned that she is feeling cold, and Yvonne decided to return to the room to get a fox fur for the countess. Bianca went to Vincent and asked if he is taking care of Arno's internal affairs. He replied that yes, he does take care of the internal affairs of Arno. She asked him this because earlier she had mentioned that it is expected that the hostess, the wife of the count, would take care of it, but she was not able to do so because she was quite young. But now Bianca is 18 and she is old enough to actively take care of household affairs. She told Vincent to teach her how to manage household chores. Vincent was surprised because after buying the fur, the girl started behaving completely differently. Before, she always spent a lot of money, but now her expenses have significantly decreased, and she wants to restore discipline in the castle. Vincent agreed and told the lady to come outside so they could walk around the entire Arno estate and he could explain the management on the go. The girl wanted to learn how to manage these things so that in the future, the count would understand that Bianca had changed. When they went outside, Vincent said that one of these 3 young men would protect and accompany Bianca. But the girl refused, saying that she didn't need a bodyguard. Vincent said that it is the count's order, so that no one would watch over the girl. Bianca felt sad because there would be security following her and everything the countess would do in the castle would reach the count's ears. Casper said that he could become the girl's bodyguard, and Vincent announced that from today on, Knight Casper becomes the countess's bodyguard. Suddenly, the count appeared, touched Bianca's face, and told her that she needed to go to his room. Everyone became happy because for the first time the count was accompanying his wife. Walking down the corridor, The girl was thinking that the Count would make her apologize to the maid she had slapped. Zachary said that he had fired that maid yesterday and added that he had no lover. The girl asked him, if he didn't want a successor, why did he assign her a security guard? The Count replied that it was just a measure so that when the girl walked alone, situations like yesterday's would not happen again. In the evening, Vincent talked to the commanders and the Count about Bianca. He then asked the Count what they were talking about when they went to the room. The man replied that Bianca thought he had a lover. After that, he asked Vincent if she had sent any letters to Blanchefort. The butler said that the girl had not sent or received any letters. The Count ordered Vincent to take care of Bianca, so that she could learn and get used to running the estate before the beginning of spring. He also added that he wants to take Bianca with him to the capital, Laos. His friends couldn't understand why he wanted to do this. Robert suddenly realized that the Count wants to bring Bianca to the city to make with her a successor. The Count replied that this is not the topic he wanted to discuss and added that it has nothing to do with the trip. A few days later, the Countess fully recovered and started learning how to manage the household. Vincent began showing her views of the Arno, and Bianca remembered that she had walked through these lands and forests in the past. Looking around the surroundings from the high ground and explaining the state of the lands, Vincent first took the lady to the sewing workshop and told the girl how embroidery is made for clothing. Suddenly, two workers began discussing Bianca, saying that she is fat. The girl heard this and told one of the workers to come to her tomorrow with her work. The seamstress thought she had done something wrong to the lady, but Bianca invited the worker to come to her because she liked the seamstress's work. Then Vincent said that the next stop was the butcher shop and a candle-making factory. The girl was surprised because she didn't know that there is a candle factory in Arno. At first, they went to the meat shop and then to the factory. Bianca was in a hurry to get to the factory because she wanted to see how candles are made. It turned out that candles were made from resin and pig fat. The man who made the candles gave one to the Countess. The team decided to leave, but they saw a boy who had cut his finger. At first, the guard thought that Nicola had wanted to hurt Bianca, but it turned out that the boy was just hiding from the shepherd. Bianca told Yvonne to check the boy's wound and treat it. The girl decided to see what Nicola was up to. When she looked, she saw the face of God carved on the candle. The boy said that God had come to him in a dream yesterday and told him that he was imprisoned in the candle and asked him to save him. That's why Nicola was digging in the candle, to save God. Bianca asked the man if the boy had ever been trained in carving candles. The man replied that Nicola had never been trained in it because his father was a shepherd and his mother was a maid. This boy grew up in a poor family, so he will eventually become a shepherd like his father, but recently he has started to spoil the candles. After hearing this, Vincent told the lady to punish Nicola because it could be considered theft. Bianca stood in front of the boy and told him to come to her tomorrow. The next day, two people who were called by Bianca came to the castle with a feeling that they would be better off beaten than invited here. At the doorstep, they were met by Yvonne, who told them that she would lead them to the Countess. Walking down the hallway, Nicola thanked the maid for treating his finger wound yesterday. Auntie, who had gathered her things to leave the castle, suddenly appeared and met with Yvonne, telling her that she is a traitor. Everyone thought that Bianca had expelled Auntie at Yvonne's request, and because of this, Yvonne began to receive hostile glances from other maids in the castle. Yvonne led the guests to the Duchess's room, and Bianca was very surprised that they had come quite early. Bianca approached the seamstress and said that she wanted to teach her how to weave lace. She then told the boy about his actions and punishment. Nicola thought that he would be harshly punished, but the Countess opened a chest and gave the boy candles made of beeswax, telling him to carve silhouettes on them and give the candles to her. Nicola was pleasantly surprised because he thought that Bianca would drive him out of the lands of Arno as punishment. The Countess said that she is investing in them and their talent because they can create beautiful and precious things. She added that she wants to turn this into a business. Countess Bianca began to teach the seamstresses to weave lace because, according to her, it is a new fashion item that will become popular in Severin and neighboring countries. Over time, this item will become a fashionable accessory that will accentuate the wearer's splendor. Afterwards, Bianca went to Vincent and gave him a task regarding the boy and the seamstress. The butler was surprised because the Countess would be providing materials that are too expensive for the boy, but she replied that Nicola would create unparalleled beauty from them because he has talent. She also added that expensive and beautiful things make her happy, so she doesn't mind spending money on them. Bianca also ordered to give the linen thread to the seamstress. Vincent went out to the corridor and felt sad because the Countess started spending a lot of money on expensive things again. After some time, Yvonne's only winter clothing accidentally caught fire. A woman approached the maid and gave her own clothes to her. When Bianca met the maid, she was surprised that Yvonne was wearing a light coat. The maid said that she accidentally burned her own clothes and had to wear a different coat. Bianca told her to take the old squirrel fur and wear it. The Countess added that she wants Yvonne to always be in her best form and by her side. Without much hesitation, the girl put on the fur and thanked the Countess. Then they went to Vincent, who decided to show them the pasture. He said that they feed the sheep and cattle with hay collected in the autumn, except for the horses, which graze in the winter. This is because the Count ordered to cultivate strength in horses that would withstand the cold. In the distance, Bianca saw the Count riding a horse. She was very surprised because her husband was riding in open clothing in such cold weather. After that, the team went to the stable where Saburo was taking care of the horses. In August, this is the only place where the military has a large number of war horses. Saburo started praising the Count because he started buying war horses from the very beginning and as a result, won all the battles he participated in. The Countess asked if there is any horse she could ride on. Saburo was surprised and asked if the lady know how to ride horses. She replied that it is not a problem and she could learn. Upon hearing this, Vincent said that war horses are different from ordinary horses because if a stranger gets on a horse, it will start panicking and throwing the person off. The butler added that, of course, there are ladies who learn horse riding, but to do so, they need permission from the Count. Upon hearing this, Bianca told Vincent to obtain permission from the Count for her to learn horseback riding. They all left the stable and continued on. Meanwhile, Robert approached Saburo and remarked that he was surprised by the Countess's behavior and intentions. In the evening, Bianca decided to take a look at the first lacework from the seamstress and was pleasantly surprised by how beautiful it looked. Suddenly, the girl felt someone touch her braids. She thought it was Yvonne who came to help her dry her hair. But when she turned around, Bianca was very surprised to see the Count in front of her. Without thinking, she decided to kiss her husband, but Zachary pushed her away, saying that he came to her room to ask something, but saw her wet hair and decided to dry it so that she wouldn't get sick. Bianca got angry and asked what he wanted to ask her so late at night. The Count asked her about Casper and whether she liked his work. She replied that Casper is doing his job well. Bianca also wanted to ask the Count something and offered to sit beside him. She started saying that she had a desire to learn horseback riding. The Count replied that horseback riding is a type of sport that requires a lot of physical strength and added that it would be tough for Bianca. The girl said that if it would be difficult, it doesn't mean that it's impossible. The Count agreed to this and suggested that she start her training in early spring, not in winter, as it will be very difficult to find ponies now. Bianca felt proud of herself because she had convinced the Count for the first time. After that, the Count mentioned that in the spring he has to go to the capital Laos for the engagement ceremony of the heir Prince Albert, the son of the first prince. He added that this summer marks the 50th anniversary of his ascension to the throne as king, and now there will be quite frequent events held because of it. That's why the Count is thinking of staying there for a long time, as it's not that easy to travel from Arno to Laos. He also said that he plans to return to Arno in the fall or early winter. Upon hearing this, Bianca became sad because she will be left alone again and won't bear a successor, and as a result will be expelled from the castle again. The girl began to cry, but suddenly the Count said that he plans to go to Laos with her. He added that Bianca would find it very interesting in Laos because various luxury items are exhibited there. Without hesitation, Bianca agreed to this proposal. The next day, Vincent told Saburo and Robert that Bianca had refused to attend to household affairs because she has other important matters to attend to. Vincent said that lately the lady has been occupied with something related to a seamstress, and she said that it needed to be completed before spring. Robert was surprised by the Countess's intentions and did not understand why she needed to finish this by spring. The butler said that Bianca also plans to go to Laos. Hearing this, the young man couldn't believe his ears. In the Count's office, Saburo asked who could go with them to Laos to protect them. Zachary replied that, according to Bianca, Casper handles this flawlessly. Looking out the window, the Count saw his wife and remembered last night, how she spoke kind words to him and thanked him for taking her with him to the capital. Several months passed and spring was slowly approaching Arno. Nicola was running through the fields and overheard a conversation between two workers. They started talking about how they haven't seen the Countess in a long time, and one of them said that the girl has locked herself in her room again and is summoning women to come and talk to her. Hearing this, Nicola began shouting at them, saying that they don't know anything about the lady. An argument broke out between them and the boy ran off to continue his business. He ran into the house where the seamstresses were spinning and asked if the Countess is there. The maid replied that Bianca hadn't been there yet today and opened the door for the boy to enter. During the conversation, the maids began to praise the Countess, saying how kind and compassionate she is. One woman asked the boy why he had come here. Nicola replied that he had carved a new candle and before bringing it to the butler, he wanted to show it to the lady. When he showed his creation, the maids were amazed by its beauty. Meanwhile, Bianca was sitting in her room, reminiscing about her past when she was married to the Count and became a person of Arno, not Blanchefort. She also remembered her first love. Suddenly, the Count entered the room and suggested that they go for a walk. During their walk, the Count decided to slow down so that it wouldn't be too difficult for the Countess. They stopped on a hill, and the Count pointed to a certain spot. Looking over, Bianca saw the horse and was pleasantly surprised. She became so happy that she couldn't even put it into words. The Count lifted his wife and placed her on the horse, saying that starting tomorrow, he would teach Bianca horse riding himself. Bianca thanked him but didn't want to take up the Count's time, so she told him to ask Vincent to find her a riding instructor. But the Count said that Bianca wouldn't be taking up his time, and they rode towards the seamstresses. On the way, the Count asked Bianca about lace. She replied that it is made from cheap materials, but in the end, it turned out to be a beautiful and valuable thing. She added that this would have a huge impact on the world beyond the continent. The Countess did it in order to earn money and in the future have enough power to not depend on anyone. Hearing this, the Count was pleasantly surprised, but immediately Bianca started talking about the successor, but the Count again said that it is too early to think about it. Unexpectedly, the lady recalled a story she had heard once. It's a story about how the second son of Viscount Vig was kicked out of the family at just 16 years old. This is a story about Zachary Arno, who was skilled in sword fighting and built his own life. After that, Bianca asked the Count if he had really been concerned about her all this time. The Count had something to say, but suddenly a maid appeared and said to hurry because Nicola is waiting for the lady. He offered to take the horse and told Bianca to name the horse. This was Bianca's first homework assignment for horseback riding. In another episode, we are shown the capital city of Laos, where a woman and Jacob started kissing. After that, a servant came to the man and said that Zachary de Arno would arrive in Laos with his wife. Upon hearing this, Jacob said that this spring would be very interesting. At that time, the emperor had 3 children. The first queen took care of the first Prince Gaudier and Princess Odeli, while the second queen took care of the second Prince Jacob. Since the tradition of the eldest son inheriting power was long established, it was considered natural that the first Prince Gaudier would become the next emperor of Severin. Standing in the hallway, Count Blanchefort approached Jacob and introduced his son Ivan. Jacob told the Count that he had heard something interesting, namely, that this time Count Arno would come to the capital with his wife. Jacob asked Blanchefort if it was his daughter whom he married off at the age of 9 to an adult knight. He also added that his mother was very concerned that her distant relative, Countess Blanchefort's daughter, would marry a baron she didn't even know. Blanchefort replied that now the same baron is a count and the chief warrior and landowner on this continent. That's why when the heir Prince Gaudier becomes emperor, no one will be able to resist Severin. After hearing this, Jacob said that he was eagerly looking forward to the day when he would meet this great hero in real life, and if there will be a chance, he would like to meet the Countess. Blanchefort ordered Ivan to return home and send a letter to Arno, in which it would be written that Blanchefort wants to meet Bianca earlier than everyone else when they arrive in the capital. Ivan was pleased because he had not seen his sister for over 10 years. In Arno, Bianca rode a horse for the first time and got very tired. The Count said it was very good that the girl started to engage in horse riding, and if she continues to do so, her endurance will increase. Bianca named the horse Isabel and said goodbye to her, promising to meet her tomorrow. The lady and the Count thus increased the time spent together until the day they set off for Laos. The next day, the Count was teaching Bianca again, and she said that she would soon be a much better rider than the Count. Upon hearing this, Zachary smiled and said that he accepted the challenge. There have been rumors going around about mysterious things that the lady does with the seamstresses or about the luxurious wax candles that have been used in large quantities lately. But along with these rumors, there were also rumors about the good relationship between the Count and Bianca, and in the estate there was a strange joint expectation that perhaps they would have a successor. Around the same time, a letter arrived from Count Blanchefort. Seeing this, Zachary was surprised because it was only the second letter from Blanchefort in 10 years. The Count read the letter and said that he would tell Bianca himself what was written in the letter and asked Vincent not to disclose this information. In his room, the Count pondered whether it would be right to allow Bianca to meet with the family she had not seen in 9 years. A day before leaving for Laos, everyone in Arno Castle was busy packing their things. When Bianca opened the Count's suitcase, she was very surprised because he had only taken a shirt and a jacket with him. The Countess was angry because the Count's clothes did not fit with Bianca's sophisticated style. She decided to change her husband's style and ordered Vincent to open all of Zachary's trunks to choose the best clothes. As a result, the girl decided to buy new clothes for the Count because his old clothes looked peasant-like. Afterwards, the Count watched from his room and began to laugh. Suddenly, he saw Saburo approaching Bianca. The Count became very curious about what they are talking about. Meanwhile, Saburo approached Bianca and asked if he could take all of the Count's clothes for himself. Eventually, the Countess allowed Saburo to take the Count's clothes. After this, the Count sat in his room and vowed to himself that he would do everything in his power to ensure that Bianca never suffered. In the evening, the girl got into the carriage and set off on a long and exhausting journey, during which she could only think about when she would finally be able to talk to the Count. The Count rode out of the gates on his horse and ordered everyone to go Laos. It has been several days since the lady and the Count left for Laos. The butler entered the sewing room and brought in gold and linen threads that the seamstresses had requested the last time. One of the seamstresses remembered Bianca's words, who said that the seamstress should continue making new lace because soon there will be buyers coming to Arno who will want to buy a lot of lace. And after that, the women would no longer be ordinary seamstresses, but proud masters of lace in Arno. The Countess also told Nicola to go to the church and thank God for the talented craftsmen in Arno. After these words, everyone hoped for the safe return of the Countess, who saw their talents and invested in them. On the way, they could not go any further due to the bad road. The Count decided to stop here and take the alternative route tomorrow. Bianca and Ivan got out of the carriage and Saburo approached them, offering to take the Countess for a walk under his escort. Robert appeared from behind and told the girl that the Count is waiting for her. She approached her husband and he suggested her go for a walk. They walked to the source of the Arno River. Bianca mentioned that Saburo also wanted to take her to this place. Hearing this, the Count became jealous and said that the Countess had become good friends with Saburo. In response, the girl told the Count not to be jealous. The couple decided to return to the carriage, and the Count asked Bianca about her relationship with her brother Ivan. The girl said that her brother is very good, and when their mother died after childbirth, her older brother was the only one left to take care of her. She added that her brother looks like their father and hasn't sent a single letter in 10 years. The girl recalled a situation when during dinner she was eating cake and her father approached her, saying something about her future wedding with the Count. Then the girl didn't even know what wedding meant, so she just calmly listened, and not knowing anything, she took the Count's hand and left the Blanchefort family. Bianca told about her father, a faithful follower of the prince, who led the fight against the Aragonese invasion on behalf of his son-in-law and his master, and Ivan took his place beside his father. As a result, the Blanchefort lineage was broken. Hearing this, the Count told Bianca that he had received a letter from the Blanchefort family in which they expressed their desire to meet with Bianca. During the conversation, the Count decided to kiss Bianca, but Ivan unexpectedly appeared and interrupted the kiss. The maid said that they would be spending the night here. Bianca suggested that the Count sleep with her in the carriage, but he said he would sleep outside with everyone else. As they were leaving, he said they would talk about the rest next time. 10 days have passed since they left the estate, and during all that time they finally arrived in Laos. Laos, the capital of Severin, has been a fortress standing between Aragon and Castile for over 100 years. The flag representing the Severin family hangs from the spire, resembling a large white mountain. The Count ordered the gates to be opened and they entered the castle grounds. Everyone who was there began to praise the Count for his bravery and courage. It turned out that to reach the center of the city, they needed to pass through 3 more gates, and after some time, the guests from Arno arrived at the castle of Laos. They walked to the castle gardens, which were managed by Princess Odeli and the first prince. They were greeted by Victor, the Emperor of Severin, who welcomed the guests. Standing beside him was his son, Gautier Severin, who greeted the girl and presented her with flowers. Victor talked about their overnight accommodations, namely the North Tower, the most picturesque place in the castle of Laos. On the way to the tower, Bianca thought about the second prince, Jacob, because in a past life, Gautier and the Count were perish, and all the power would pass into the hands of Jacob. Unexpectedly, the girl bumped into a man, who turned out to be Jacob, the second prince of Severin, who would eventually seize power in Severin and on the continent.